I know that deep down I'm okay. So many people can write horrible things, and every day somebody writes absolutely diabolical things about me.
For years, tensions within the royal family have simmered beneath carefully managed smiles. But one live television moment has blown the lid wide open. Sarah Ferguson stunned viewers by revealing a secret involving Meghan and Prince Andrew that was never meant to reach the public. The reaction was immediate and explosive, sending shockwaves across the UK and beyond. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. It felt deliberate, calculated, and deeply unsettling. So, what exactly was exposed and why now? The Bombshell podcast that ignited the firestorm. It is a cool December evening in 2025. The kind that feels calm on the surface, but restless underneath. Across the world, people are scrolling, listening, watching, unaware that a single podcast episode is about to ignite one of the most talked about celebrity controversies in years. When Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, appears on Piers Morgan's podcast, it is immediately clear this will not be a polite conversation filled with rehearsed answers and careful smiles. She walks in with purpose, steady and composed like someone who has waited a very long time to speak. There is no warm-up, no jokes, no gentle easing into the topic. Sarah goes straight to the heart of the matter. What follows feels less like gossip and more like a deliberate reckoning. She claims she has carried certain truths for years. Truths involving Meghan Markle and her former husband, Prince Andrew, and that she has finally decided the silence must end. The room seems to tighten as she speaks, and listeners sense that this is not a casual airing of grievances. It is strategic, measured, and meant to land hard. What makes the moment so gripping is that Sarah does not present herself as someone venting out of anger. Instead, she positions herself as someone prepared. She hints at evidence she says exists. Photographs, written records, and individuals who, according to her, are ready to back up her version of events. With that, the conversation shifts. What could have been brushed off as resentment suddenly feels heavier, more serious. The stakes rise. Meghan, once again at the center of intense public attention, appears, at least in Sarah's telling, to be facing questions that could challenge the carefully shaped image the public has come to know. As the story unfolds, Sarah asks listeners to travel back in time. She describes London in 2009, not the glittering postcard version, but a quieter, more hidden world of private gatherings and selective invitations. One particular party stands out in her account. According to Sarah, this was not a place for chance meetings or harmless introductions.
Never give up and never to believe they can't achieve their dreams.
It was a space where access mattered and connections were carefully arranged. It is here she claims that Meghan and Prince Andrew were introduced through shared acquaintances. Sarah is careful with her words, but the meaning is clear. She suggests the relationship that followed was not formal or public, yet not innocent either. She describes it as casual but deliberate, something that existed in the shadows rather than the open. One detail she repeats for emphasis involves Prince Andrew's personal driver. According to Sarah, Meghan allegedly requested this driver multiple times for discreet travel. To Sarah, this was unusual. She points out that most guests would simply arrange their own transportation. This, she says, was different and intentional. The conversation grows heavier as Sarah broadens the picture. She speaks of exclusive parties, of young women being quietly transported, and of a social circle that blurred lines between power, privilege, and secrecy. She never directly accuses Meghan of wrongdoing, but she suggests awareness that Meghan understood the environment she was stepping into. One name lingers uncomfortably in the background: Jeffrey Epstein. Sarah does not dwell on him, but his presence casts a long shadow over everything else she describes. Piers Morgan, known for pushing guests to extremes, is unusually restrained. He listens more than he speaks, occasionally asking for clarification, but mostly allowing Sarah to continue uninterrupted. The atmosphere feels tense, almost fragile, as though a single sentence could tip everything over. Outside the studio, the reaction is immediate. Social media explodes with clips, quotes, and theories. Hashtags trend within minutes. Some people see Sarah as brave, finally lifting the curtain on secrets long suspected. Others accuse her of settling old scores or stirring controversy for attention. Armchair investigators dissect timelines, compare past interviews, and search for patterns. Every pause, every word choice becomes a clue. By the end of the episode, one thing is certain. Sarah has opened a door that cannot easily be closed. Whether her claims lead to proof, denials, or further revelations remains unknown. What lingers is the question that keeps listeners hooked long after the podcast ends. Was this a personal reckoning or the first crack in a much larger story still waiting to come apart? Did the revelation end there? Was there more to it? Let's delve into the details of Sarah's claim that was backed by witnesses. Witnesses emerge from the shadows. Just as the shock from Sarah's first revelation begins to fade, a new storm gathers, this time on Piers Morgan's podcast. What seemed like a pause in the drama quickly turns into a louder, more intense chapter. The studio becomes the center of attention once again, not because of a royal or a celebrity, but because of someone few people ever noticed before. Stepping into the spotlight is Andrew's former personal driver, a man far removed from royal glitter, yet carrying memories he says he can no longer keep silent about. Introduced with heavy suspense, the mood in the room shifts instantly. This is not a man seeking applause or internet fame. He explains calmly that he is repeating statements he already gave under oath during the 2024 Epstein trial. His voice is steady, almost heavy, as though each word has been carried for years. According to him, his job placed him in rooms and moments the public was never meant to see. Then comes the line that freezes the audience. He claims he drove Meghan to Andrew's villa on at least 3 occasions. These were not chance meetings, he insists, but planned visits where she was described to staff as a special guest. He continues carefully but firmly describing a world of luxury and secrecy. Private yachts were moving quietly at night.
I then asked them to check. I'm not quite sure what the shape of the original that I drew.
Exclusive bars hidden from public view, and trips that stretched over several days. To him, these outings did not look like simple social calls or work-related meetings. He says the same patterns repeated themselves too often to be brushed aside as a coincidence. Each detail adds weight to his account, pulling listeners deeper into a story that feels less like gossip and more like a puzzle slowly coming together. Some of his memories clearly trouble him. He recalls nights ending at secluded motel or private hotels, places chosen for privacy rather than comfort. On several occasions, he says forgotten. Items left in his car led to late-night requests to return them. When he knocked on hotel doors, he claims Meghan sometimes appeared looking tired and unsettled, while Andrew seemed relaxed and unconcerned. He stresses that this happened more than once. For him, repetition is key. He points to his logbook, carefully kept records with dates, times, locations, and routes as proof that these events followed a pattern, not random chance. What gives his words extra weight, he says, is their connection to an ongoing legal web already tied to Epstein. He does not speak with anger or emotion. Instead, he presents his account as factual, measured, and documented. Media outlets move quickly, replaying clips from the podcast and analyzing every line. Reporters pore over the idea of the logbook, treating it as a silent witness that could support or challenge long-standing denials. For the public, it feels like watching a hidden life being examined piece by piece under bright lights. Yet the story does not stop with the driver. Another voice soon enters, this time from the shadows. An anonymous woman introduced as a longtime friend of Sarah agrees to speak with her identity concealed. Her voice is altered, adding a layer of mystery that only deepens curiosity. She takes listeners back to 2016, a time when Sarah and Andrew were reportedly close to rebuilding their relationship after divorce. According to her, Meghan's presence at social gatherings was far from accidental. The friend claims Meghan appeared again and again at the same events, carrying herself in a way that demanded attention. She describes deliberate closeness, private conversations, and behavior she believes was meant to draw Andrew away. In her telling, these actions were obvious, not subtle, and they changed the mood of every room. She suggests that this tension played a major role in Andrew pulling away from Sarah and abandoning plans of reconciliation. The drama escalates further when Sarah responds online, backing her friend's account. In a sharp post, she says she has kept her distance from Meghan for years because of what she calls harmful behavior. Almost immediately, Meghan's team hints at possible legal action, warning against defamation, and questioning the motives behind these claims. As threats and denials collide, the question lingers: who will speak next? With each new voice, the story grows darker and more complex, unfolding like a real-life thriller, where every revelation strips away another layer of secrecy. Which other fact supported Sarah's claim? What was revealed therein? Let's dive into the details of the book that nailed the coffin. The book that seals the fate. As the last echoes of the podcast fade into memory, Sarah Ferguson drops what might be the ultimate bombshell. Her upcoming biography, entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, scheduled to hit bookstores in early 2026. This is not your typical tell, all filled with fleeting gossip or recycled rumors. No, this is a carefully engineered chronicle, a meticulously crafted account that takes scattered whispers and binds them together into a chain so strong it feels impossible to break. Inspired, critics say, by the shadows of the Epstein saga, Ferguson's work is designed to dig deep, to pull apart the tangled web of half-truths and present them as a coherent, undeniable story. From the very first pages, Sarah positions herself not as a victim, nursing old wounds, but as a seeker of truth, determined to set the record straight. Every chapter feels like a declaration. She is here to tell the story as it happened without apologies or theatrics. Leaked excerpts have already begun to stir the waters, transforming what were once dismissed as tabloid whispers into gripping biographical evidence. Secret relationships meticulously documented with timelines, annotations, and contextual background suddenly make denial feel hollow. The rumors that once floated in gossip columns are now solidified in print, complete with the weight of research and corroboration. The strength of the book lies in its icy precision. Ferguson stitches together driver's logs, accounts of parties from 2016, and intimate insights into her own personal struggles to create a narrative that feels seamless and almost inevitable. Each incident, each diary entry, each photo is placed deliberately, allowing the story to unfold naturally, letting the facts speak louder than any accusation or rebuttal. What once appeared as isolated slips, late-night encounters, flirty messages, subtle maneuverings, now read as a clear and deliberate pattern. Photographs, handwritten notes, and long-ignored documents surface throughout, lending a sense of undeniable authenticity to every page. Publishers are already predicting bestseller status, and not because of shock value alone. The book promises to do something far rarer, to transform the chaos of fleeting headlines and social media chatter into a tangible, structured dossier that demands serious attention. Every page challenges those involved to respond to provide context or risk being defined entirely by Ferguson's account. Meanwhile, Meghan and her team have chosen silence where once their quiet approach may have served as a shield. It now seems like a strategic misstep. Each passing day without comment makes their silence feel heavier, open to interpretation, either weary resignation or calculated retreat. Friends and allies rushed to frame Ferguson's work as a smear campaign or as the product of old grudges. But the public, now conditioned to look for corroboration rather than spin, remains skeptical. As excerpts circulate online and through media outlets, previously dismissed statements suddenly gain new significance. Old testimonies begin to line up with fresh evidence, turning the conversation from debate into a high-stakes credibility showdown. Who truly controls the narrative? Now, Ferguson doesn't just tell the story, she immortalizes it. Every quiet moment, every unspoken denial, every strategic retreat is amplified in print, making silence sound deafening. The book doesn't merely expose, it enshrines. It transforms rumor into record, fleeting media sparks into a blazing trail of documented reality. Readers are left questioning what other hidden revelations lie between its covers. And most importantly, can Meghan's carefully constructed world endure this relentless literary assault? With Entitled, Sarah Ferguson is no longer a voice in the background. She is the one holding the lens, capturing every detail and demanding that the world pay attention. In this story, every page is a statement, every chapter a challenge, and every revelation a test of what will survive the public eye. The countdown to 2026 has begun, and with it, the quiet tension of a battle not fought in courts or tabloids, but in the permanence of printed words. How did the revelation affect the accused perpetrators? Does it look like another royal scandal? Let's find out. The devastating aftermath and lingering mysteries. The fallout hits like a relentless tidal wave, slow to build, but impossible to resist. Overwhelming in scope and force, it begins almost innocuously. A single dent in an image, a fleeting headline, a whisper that grows into a roar. Before long, it spirals into a full-blown boycott. Doors slamming shut across industries that once welcomed her with open arms. In the UK, public opinion sour beyond repair. Polls nosedive. Events quietly remove her name from programs, and a weary collective sigh settles over the nation. Patience has run dry. Explanations, apologies, or clarifications barely register. People have moved on, leaving her alone with a brand suddenly deemed toxic.
I think, Andrew, actually you designed it, didn't you?
I helped in this design.
What do you mean with sketches and things?
Netflix, once the golden jewel of collaboration, quietly ends projects. Their words polite yet pointed, a clear signal that her presence now carries risk. Media outlets dig with renewed vigor, linking overlooked missteps and past controversies into damning narratives, while sales of her books and merchandise crash by 70%. Fans once loyal now drift away. A brutal reminder that trust, once lost, is extraordinarily hard to reclaim. The shadow of Epstein once fading now clings like a curse. No fresh scandal is needed. Merely invoking the name is enough to tarnish her attempts at reinvention. Behind the composed, measured public facade, however, a storm of unspoken torment brews. Picture her pacing through the grand moonlit halls of her Montecito estate, fists tight with anger at the injustices surrounding her. Ambitions that once promised glory now feel distorted, turned into a grotesque sideshow by the relentless machinery of royalty. Rage mixes with humiliation, and in the quiet hours, regret whispers. Had defiance against the palace demanded too high a price? Her defiance simmers, but so does despair. Anxiety knots her stomach. Paranoia magnifies every leak, every rumor, every misstep. Friends glimpse the truth in rare, unguarded moments. A cornered lioness railing against institutions she once respected, yet grappling with solitude as allies. Retreat and doors close. Tears do not fall for lost deals or partnerships. They fall for strained relationships, shadowed childhoods, and the unrelenting pressure of being watched and judged at every turn. Between therapy sessions and breakdowns, she plots ways forward, attempting to turn pain into motivation. Yet, even the strongest resolve falters under doubt. Has ambition demanded more than it could ever return? Every plan seems to falter.
And how right she was. And today we talk about Lisa Marie. We look at Priscilla.
Media ventures stall before they start. Activist projects vanish quietly, and the very foundations of her public persona erode. There is no dramatic finale, no climactic confession, no redemption arc. What remains is a stark reality. In the image economy, the loss of trust is a slow, bleeding wound. Attempts to mend it are arduous, expensive, and often fruitless. This saga leaves lingering questions almost hauntingly. When exposure meets silence, who pays the ultimate price? Is it the individual daring enough to strike boldly? The ambition that fuels high-stakes gambles? or the witnesses, insiders, and allies whose choices ripple outward in ways they never imagined? Lessons lurk in these shadows of power, secrecy, and consequence, inviting reflection on the cost of ambition, the fragility of reputation, and the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. As we follow this unfolding story, we are compelled to ask, do we recognize ourselves in it? The risk, the desire, the missteps, the whispered regrets. How much of our own journeys mirror these trials of ambition and consequence? Think deeply, reflect carefully, and stay tuned. There are more revelations ahead, each one peeling back another layer of this intricate, mesmerizing tale of ambition, scandal, and the price of being seen. Why would Sarah go all out against her ex-husband? Is there any recent rift between them? Has there been a blow that hit their relationship recently? Let's dig into the details of how King Charles is forcing a long overdue royal reckoning. The final curtain at Royal Lodge. More than 3 decades after their fairy tale wedding captured the world's attention, Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew find themselves once again at the center of royal drama. Only this time, there are no smiling balcony waves or hopeful beginnings. Their marriage officially ended just 10 years after it began. Yet, their lives remained intertwined long after the divorce papers were signed. Together, they are parents to 2 daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. And for years they maintained an unusual arrangement that kept them under the same roof despite no longer being husband and wife. Against all expectations, Sarah and Andrew continued living together at Royal Lodge, a grand property that symbolized privilege and persistence.
I'm the generational bridge because I'm still very young, in case you hadn't realized. Yeah, exactly.
To many observers, it felt as though time had frozen for the former couple. While other royal relationships moved forward or faded away, they appeared to be playing family, sharing space, routine, and familiarity in a way that blurred the lines between past and present. But according to recent reports, that long-standing arrangement is finally coming to an end, and not by choice. Sources now claim that Prince Andrew is expected to vacate Royal Lodge and relocate to another residence. This move would not affect him alone. Sarah Ferguson, long settled into life at the lodge, would also be required to find a new place to call home. For a couple that has lived in comfortable limbo for decades, this shift represents more than a change of address. It marks the closing of a chapter they seem determined to keep open. Celebrity journalist Rob Shooter shed light on the situation in his column #ShooterScoop, offering words that struck with finality. According to Shooter, Sarah and Andrew have been playing house for decades, but the royal gravy train has finally pulled into its last station. His choice of words paints a clear picture. The benefits, protections, and allowances that once surrounded the pair may no longer be available. While he emphasized that they still care for one another, Shooter made it clear that this separation would be different from all the others. This time, Sarah would not be following Andrew wherever he lands. At the heart of this major change is King Charles. Reports suggest that the monarch no longer wants Andrew and Ferguson living at Royal Lodge, especially given claims that no rent has been paid on the property for more than 20 years. To Charles, this issue appears to be about principle as much as practicality. Shooter explained that the king is sending a deliberate message, one that leaves little room for negotiation. No one, not even his brother, is above responsibility, Shooter noted. In his view, Charles is drawing a clear line between the old ways of royal indulgence and a future built on duty and restraint. The monarchy, he suggests, is entering a phase where service is valued over scandal. For Sarah Ferguson, however, the news has reportedly landed like a personal earthquake. Sources describe her as heartbroken and enraged at the possibility of losing not just her home, but also her Duchess of York title. To her, these are not mere labels or addresses. They represent her remaining ties to a royal world she once belonged to. Shooter claims that Sarah has been holding tightly to both the title and the lodge because they serve as her final connections to royal life and identity.
And we went into this nightclub, and she was very good as her costume.
But those connections may soon be severed. According to insiders, King Charles is determined to move forward without the lingering shadows of past controversies. Charles is cutting ties to the past, Shooter concluded. And this time, the monarchy is moving on without her. What makes this moment so striking is not just the personal fallout, but what it symbolizes. A relationship that refused to fully end. A living arrangement that defied convention and a royal safety net that seemed endless. All are now facing their limit. As the doors of Royal Lodge threaten to close on Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew, the message is unmistakable. The era of exceptions is over, and the crown is turning its gaze toward the future at last. So, what do you think about Sarah Ferguson's revelations? Could it be her revenge? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join us for more royalties.